Who loves change? Well, if you do, 2020 has been your year. How much change have we had? How much time do we spend on Zoom calls? And how hard is it to figure out how to use the mute button? I feel like I'm on a game show. I'm on mute, I'm off mute, I'm on mute. Very, very tricky indeed. They say that if we want our kids to be successful, we should teach them STEM. I don't think that's right. I think success in the future will be dictated by your ability to successfully use the mute functionality. And look at the amount of time that we spend on Zoom. These things go on for hours. I was having a call with a lady the other day and she said, "I'm sorry, Nick, but we'll have to finish at 40 minutes. I'm on the free tier of Zoom and I have a 40-minute limit." It's like, a 40-minute limit on Zoom calls? I would pay for that functionality. Could you imagine how empowering that would be? I'm sorry, Bob. Your time is up. So we have had a pandemic and it's been a big bump in our world. We know that. But, we've learnt how to get along with it. We've pivoted. And in the events industry, it's been tough on all of us. But we've managed to get through. We've figured out new and different ways to do things. Look at the company Stage Kings. Back in March, they had a successful business. They make a lot of the temporary staging for live events. But in the middle of March, that business collapsed. 58 people out of work. But they pivoted. They changed their business model and they started manufacturing furniture. And as a result, they've now sold 13,000 pieces of furniture and all 58 people are now back at work. What a great story. And that's the opportunity here if we pivot. And pivot, change, it's all just another word for innovation. And how do we innovate? Everyone can innovate. But there are 3 key rules to innovation. The first one is to use minimum viable product methodology. And what that means is that you have this big dream, but you don't start building the dream on day one. You start simple and you build over time and you test. So when I started my side business, LawPath, some 6 years ago, my dream was to build a website where every small business in Australia would come and get legal services. But I didn't build that website on day one. On day one, I sent out an email to 2,000 small business owners and I explained to them, I'm thinking of building this website. Would you use it if I did? And I got a pretty good response. I thought, well, something to this idea. So the next step was to build a simple website. And so it grew. And out of LawPath, I learned the second key rule of innovation, which is diversity of your innovation team. So at LawPath, about 3 years ago, we were having real problems. We hadn't increased revenue in 6 months. And I realized we had a problem. We had a lack of diversity in the leadership. And so the CEO and the CTO were both middle-aged guys like me. They left the business and we put 2 28-year-olds in charge of the operation. That business changed overnight. We went to having doubled revenue in 3 months and we tripled revenue in 6 months. And today, that business now has over 120,000 users. And how did these millennials do it? What was the magic? It was very simple. They obeyed the 3rd rule of innovation, and that is sweat the detail. In 2002, the British cycling team was a mess. That team had been going for 100 years and they had not won one Tour de France and they had only won 1 Olympic gold medal. Disaster. But in 2002, a new management team came on board and they focused on the detail. They had this belief that if you measured the compounding effect of 1% wins, that would lead you to victory. And they were absolutely vindicated. In 2008, at the Olympics, the British cycling team won 7 out of 10 gold medals. 4 years later, they increased that dominance at the Olympics then. And in that same year, Bradley Wiggins became the first Brit ever to win the Tour de France. Since that time, another Brit, Chris Froome, has won no less than 4 Tour de France's. So true evidence that focusing on the detail means great, successful innovation. But how do you manage innovation teams? And a lot of people think that you manage an innovation team by it's some sort of loosey-goosey approach. A lot of people think that you manage an innovation team, some sort of loosey-goosey approach, that you somehow, get together, get some bean bags, have some ideation sessions, get some incense going, some lava lamps. But what happens is management come after you and they say, where's the revenue? And then this happens. Ouch. Your project gets taken away from you. So that is not the way to manage an innovation team. The way that you manage an innovation team is by focusing on tight, loose, tight methodology. So at my law firm, Norton Rose Fulbright, a client had a problem. They had a 25-page employment agreement. Now, what they wanted it to be changed. They wanted it to be simple, to be enforceable, and to be innovative. So we were very tight around those parameters. But with the innovation team, we were very loose with them. Do whatever you need to do to come up with an amazing solution for that. And so they did. And what they came up with was truly off the wall. They created the world's first visual employment agreement. They took 25 pages of text and they reduced that to 3 pages of cartoon characters, a comic strip as a legal agreement. Very loose, but we had to get tight at the end. Had they complied and delivered on the 3 parameters? Was it simple? It was certainly simple. Was it enforceable? Yes, it was enforceable. And was it innovative? It was certainly innovative. And the CEO of that company was absolutely delighted with that solution. And they've started rolling that out to 7,000 employees around the world. Now, the other thing that the pandemic has brought on us is that we now all exist in the multiverse. We are all in this weird world of online, offline, we're on Zoom. How do we manage to build our customer relationships? How do we get trust? How do we deliver online and offline at the same time? Well, I've got the solution here for you. And I give you the 4 bills. And I know what you're thinking. This guy, typical lawyer. I've only just met him and already he's giving me 4 bills. Well, not those kind of bills, though I do like those other bills. It's these bills. You've got to be identifiable. You've got to be unique online. You've got to have a proposition. You've got to be accountable. So with Norton Rose and then also with what we've done with LawPath. When I first started LawPath, people said to me, Nick, no one's ever going to buy legal services online. But over the years, we've built up trust. And so now every day, more than 300 Australians go online as new customers to LawPath. You need to be global. So you need to recognize that the opportunity to grow your customers, to grow your partnerships, it's more than just your city, it's more than your state, it's more than your country. And then finally, you need to be mobile. And with that, I mean, you need to recognize that technology has completely unleashed us from the desk. We should embrace technology and use it to make us great at what we do and the services that we offer to our clients. And I know it's hard, it's difficult to embrace technology and use technology. I understand that. I mean, you don't have to tell me. A few years ago, a client asked me to come onto their virtual world in Second Life, and they just built an e-commerce shop in this virtual world. They wanted me to come on and speak at the opening of this e-commerce shop. And I was terrified. I'd never been in this virtual world. I had to figure out how to make this little avatar walk into this virtual world. But the day came, and there I was. I got my avatar into the auditorium. I walk in, and there's 200 other avatars all staring down at me. I'm on the stage. And there's a chair on the stage, and I think, you know what, I am going to hit the sit down command. So I hit the sit down, but instead of sitting down, my avatar lay down underneath the presentation chair. I'm like, oh, well, that's not supposed to happen. And then when I hit stand up, he hit his head on the underside of the chair. So I'm stuck under the presentation chair. I press the button faster and faster, and his head just hits the underside of the chair more and more. These poor people in the audience are staring at my avatar having a fit under the presentation chair. And that was very humiliating indeed, but nowhere near as humiliating as spending the next 30 minutes delivering that presentation while stuck under the presentation chair. But I got through it. And I logged out and I thought, that's it. I don't need to think about that again, until a friend of mine sent me this screenshot of me stuck under the presentation chair whilst discussing the opportunities and risks for companies in Second Life. So I think I made the risk pretty evident. But I got through that. And there is hope for us all. One final story. Back in 2003, the SARS epidemic was ravaging Asia. And there was a small Chinese company that almost went out of business because of SARS. But they didn't. They pivoted. They changed their business model and launched an online marketplace. That business is today worth $500 billion. That business is called Alibaba. Alibaba found the opportunity in the adversity. And you can too. And with that, I wish you all the very best for all the bumps and pivots in your life. Thank you.